الرحيم نحمده ونصلي على رسوله الكريم أما بعد. The Quran lays a great deal of importance on social etiquette and conduct and character. And one of the surahs that really opens it up is Surah An-Nur, which we heard today in Taraweeh. Surah An-Nur addresses both the social evils that exist in society, and it also teaches us a better way. It gives us an alternative of how we should be spending our lives. So in the beginning, acts of indecency, illicit relationships, all of these are opened up. And what their implications are in dunya and akhirah, this is also explained. But then there is another issue in society. Aside from the actual act, there is a problem in which people will unnecessarily accuse each other, lay blame, or cast a shadow of doubt on someone's character. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala used the life of the Prophet ﷺ and the lives of his companions as a model for us, so that until Yawm al-Qiyamah, the world would know how to deal with even the most difficult circumstances. Our Prophet ﷺ himself went through so many hardships, we can't even count them. And those around him, those that were close to him, also went through immense difficulties. And his beloved wife Aisha radiallahu anha at one point became the target of a scandal. And a rumor was spread, and her character was attacked. And in fact, of course, the broader objective was to hurt the Prophet ﷺ, to damage his morale, the morale of the Muslims, and to make the Muslims shaky in the institution of prophethood and in the family of the Prophet ﷺ. It was a very difficult time. It was a time in which, regarding which Aisha radiallahu anha says that I cried continuously, my tears would just not dry up. They would just not dry up. La yarqa'u li dam'un. And she said, I didn't sleep. For days on end, she did not sleep, and she continuously cried. She could not eat anything, and she was in a state of shock and pain, and it was a very difficult time. And imagine her parents, what they must have gone through. Now, of course, it was just a matter of time before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only exonerated her, but called out those people that had started this propaganda and tried to damage her. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala announced what would be the outcomes of those people. But at the same time, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taught us a great deal of etiquette. And the way the Quran portrays this is not just in a way of condemnation, not just condemning the act, but rather Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, look, this was one of those occasions in which the insincere people became defined and separated, distinguished from the sincere people. إِنَّ الَّذِينَ جَاءُوا بِالْإِفْكِ عُصْبَةٌ مِّنْكُمْ. They were a group from you. لَا تَحْسَبُوهُ شَرًّا لَكُمْ بَلْ هُوَ خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Don't think that this is something that has hurt you and set you back. Don't think that. Rather, this is something from which good will emerge. Now that is a very, very optimistic approach to something as negative and as terrifying as this. But look at the optimism of the Quran. Don't think this is something bad. Don't say this was a bad thing that happened. This was good. How? Because those people that were insincere became apparent. And the love of the Muslims, the appreciation and the honor of the Muslims that they had in their hearts for the wives of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam increased manifold through this. And now they became prepared to defend the family of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam against any slightest hint of disrespect towards them. But the Quran says, look, as far as the believers are concerned, when they heard this, like some mistakes that were made along the way, when they heard this, why didn't the believing men and women say that, no, we have the best of expectations from our people? لولا إذ سمعتموه ظن المؤمنون والمؤمنات بأنفسهم خيرا وَقَالُوا هَذَا إِفْكٌ مُبِينٌ. When you first heard it, why did your good expectations, your positive outlook on each other dominate you? And why didn't you say that this is an absolute lie? We're not going to entertain this. This is obviously a slander. Yani this should be the first response to a Muslim, whenever something compromising about another Muslim is said to them. No, it can't be true. This is not an invitation to go and verify. This is the default position of the Muslim that no, it's not true. Like they say, like today's terminology has defined it, innocent until proven guilty. Where's the proof? There's no proof. It's a lie. By default, anything that anyone says about someone, anything negative that is said about someone is a lie unless it's proven. And the burden of proof is on the person making that claim. That's why Allah SWT follows up and says, your first reaction to this should have been that, oh, if they're saying this, where are their 4 witnesses? And if they do not have 4 witnesses, in the sight of Allah, they're liars. This should be the first response of the Muslims to something like this. Then Allah SWT said, look, you could have all been punished for this. The whole community could have suffered the wrath of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But it was through this Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because of the promise that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made to Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not destroy them as long as you are there with them. وَمَا كَانَ اللَّهُ لِيُعَذِّبَهُمْ وَأَنْتَ فِيهِمْ. O Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as long as you are there, I'm not going to destroy them. So Allah SWT says, look, if it were not for the favor and the blessings, the mercy of Allah upon you in dunya and akhirah, then those conversations that you had, because of those conversations and because of this topic that you were delving into, a very painful punishment would have come to you in dunya. لَمَسَّكُمْ فِي مَا أَفَضْتُمْ فِيهِ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. Then again, why didn't you respond to this by saying, Allah SWT is saying, look, these are the types of things that you should have said. Why did you not say when you heard this, that we're not allowed to talk about these things? مَا يَكُونُ لَنَا أَن نَتَكَلَّمَ بِهَذَا سُبْحَانَكَ هَذَا بُهْتَانٌ عَظِيمٌ. We could never dare to talk about a topic like this. This is an immense slander. And Allah SWT says, look, I'm warning you. يَعِدُكُمُ اللَّهُ أَن تَعُودُوا لِمِثْلِهِ أَبَدًا إِن كُنتُم مُؤْمِنِينَ. If you really are believers, never ever make this mistake again. You see, what had happened is that conversations had started. And this happens even more frequently today, where someone of importance, someone of a high stature, of a high social stature perhaps, or a religious stature, or a worldly stature, becomes the discussion, becomes the target of some controversy. They become the topic of controversy. Now everyone wants to weigh in and give their 2 cents worth. Everyone. Those that know them, those that don't know them, those that hear about them. And then everyone talks about what should have happened, what should not have happened. I think this, I feel this. And they sit in gatherings, wasting their time discussing something and creating a lot of talk and a lot of gossip about an issue that most of them are very detached from. They don't really know what it is on the inside. And there are some sort of typical outcomes of those conversations, depending on who the person was. If it was a politician, then it's an attack on politicians. If it was a religious figure, it's an attack on all religious figures. If it was a wealthy person, it's an attack on all wealthy people. You know, if it's somebody in the government, it's an attack. It's all about corruption and this and that. There are typical phrases that are used at that time, and this is what this becomes is a breeding ground for those people that have ulterior motives, that need things like this to manipulate the mindset, to create a tipping point for turning things over in their favor. That's exactly what the munafiqeen did in the time of Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with this issue. First of all, they're the ones who started the rumor. And they allowed this rumor to permeate into the homes. In fact, Aisha radiallahu anha was the last person to find out about it. And how did she find out about it? One of the women who used to do khidmah in her house, see at that time, the women, they would go outside to relieve themselves, and they would wait till it was dark. And they would take someone with them and go. So she took this khadima, and she went out for her need. So the woman who was with her, Mistah, she tripped. She stumbled. So as she stumbled, she said, Ta'isa Mistah. May Mistah be ruined. Aisha radiallahu anha got up. She said, why are you saying that about a Muslim? Okay, it's your son, I understand, but why can you say that about someone who believes? She said, you haven't heard? She said, heard what? She said, don't you know he's one of the people that is talking about you? He said, talking about what? And then she told her that this is the talk of the town. And you don't, so then that's when Aisha radiallahu anha came back in this state of shock and stunned. And that's when she noticed that everyone had changed. So, subhanallah, people either create rumors, and then there are those who utilize rumors to push across a message of their own. And sometimes it's nothing more than, aha, you see, I told you so. See, I told you those were not good people. I've been saying it all along, those are not good people. And for someone else who wants to take the place of that person, you see, look, this person is not eligible for whatever position you've given them. You see, the right person is right here. Different people use these situations for different things. The awam, the public, become the tool that is used to as this device to create this movement, to bring people down, or to push their own agendas. So part of the social etiquette of Islam is that we never get involved in these conversations. And we never entertain. That's why I like to say that a Muslim should never become the vehicle for which hearsay and gossips and rumors spread. We should not be the transport vehicle for those types of talks. If somebody comes and brings it to us, it should die with us. Fizzles out, goes away. Because batil, falsehood, and gossip and rumors, they need two things. They need tongues and they need ears. In our case, they need fingers and they need eyes. Someone's going to tap it out on a screen and someone's got to read it. And that's it. Everyone goes crazy. But if our ears become deaf to such things, then the rumors cannot grow. Today, because sometimes we're naive, and shaitan also uses us, become excited, we become a little curious, a little interested. Oh yeah, tell me more. Oh really, is that the case? So we are not supposed to be the kind of society that's prying into people's personal affairs. And if someone has the audacity to raise something against the character, against the personality of someone, we are those people who say, get out of here. The person who's talking about it is the one who is made to feel guilty and put to shame for talking. Because Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in Hajjatul Wada' that kullul muslimi ala al-muslimi haram. Every aspect of a Muslim's life is haram, it's inviolable, it cannot be violated. Damuhu wa maluhu wa irduhu. His blood cannot be shed. Nobody can spill the blood of a Muslim. It's inviolable. Maluhu, his wealth is inviolable. What Allah has given him, what his properties, nobody can take it away from him. Nobody can steal from him. Nobody can deceive him into taking it. Nobody can force him to give up his wealth. That's what Allah has given him, it's his. Nobody can tamper with it. And the third thing is, his respect or his reputation, nobody has the right to tamper with it. It's haram. on everyone else, just like his blood is haram on everyone else. There was one great sheikh, and one of our shuyukh shared with us this story about him. He says, I was sitting with him, and a group of brothers came from a country, from Europe, and they said, Shaykh, we want to speak to you. We have some masail, we have some ahwal. Now, they probably didn't notice, but the Shaykh had a hearing aid. So the Shaykh who was in his khidmah, and he's the one who told me this, he said, I noticed that he switched his hearing aid off. And he sat there. Because he knew, when they came like this, he knew that this means that they have problems with brothers back home. And now they're going to open up the faults of other people, and I don't want to be the one who hears it. So he switched his hearing aid off. And he says, I actually saw him do that. And he sat there. And they kept talking, and he just sat there. And they talked and talked and talked and talked. And then when they were done, then he said, yes, well, let's all make dua. I'll make dua as well. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make everything easy. And that's it. Finish. This is Maulana Sayyid Ahmad Khan Sahib rahmatullah alayhi. For those of you who may have seen him or heard of him. So, this is the attitude of a believer. I'm not interested in the latest. I'm not interested in the new juicy news, that gossip that's the talk. I don't care. Why should I? What's it going to do for me? How's it going to help me in my akhirah? Nothing. So this is part of the mizaj, the temperament of a Muslim society, that they do not give importance to these kinds of things. Gossipers, people who talk, have always been frowned upon in Islam. That's why Islam lays so much importance on controlling the tongue. Controlling the tongue, controlling the tongue. Now the surah goes on and talks about other social etiquette, like respecting people's privacy. Respecting people's privacy. Not looking into someone's house, not entering into someone's house without their permission. And there are, in ahadith, there is a whole compilation of ahadith, whole collection of ahadith pertaining to the etiquettes of just visiting someone. And the hadith says that a person who looks into someone's house without their permission is like someone who has entered their house. And إِنَّمَا الْإِسْتِئْذَانُ مِنَ النَّظَرِ. The reason why we have been commanded, and in this surah we are given the command that do not enter into anyone's house until they give you permission. And one of the reasons for that is so that you don't see something the other person does not want you to see. That's their privacy. Whatever happens within the boundary of their house, that's their business, it's not your business. And you should only see them in the state that they want you to see them. So this also removes from our minds and our hearts doubts, suspicions, this attitude of prying, being nosy, trying to find out what's going on. This is not our attitude. Once a person came to the Prophet ﷺ's house and knocked, and he stood in front of the door. The Prophet ﷺ came out with a short stick, just a small little stick. He said, the way you're standing in front of my house, if I was to, out of being upset for you standing here, that when I open the door, of course you're going to see right inside. If I had poked your eye out, if I had poked your eye out for standing there like that, and some narrations mention that there was a crack in the door, he was standing right in front of that crack. He said, if I had poked your eye out, I would not be blamed for it. Why are you being so nosy? So, a great deal of respect and distance when it comes to people's private matters. This has been taught to us in Islam. Just like entering, then the Quran talks about whose houses we can enter, whose houses we cannot enter. And even when we're entering into the houses of our own families, the etiquettes of visiting. Yani, a Sahabi asked Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam that, I live with my mother, or I go visit my mother, do I have to take permission even before I enter? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said yes. He asked a few times. Then the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he asked him, because the person kept asking, he said, do you want to see her when she is not fully clothed? He said, no. He said, then what's wrong with you? So, even when we are visiting our relatives, our neighbors, our friends, yes, there's a frankness, there is a, there's an informality about it, there's a casualness about the relationship, but there are still boundaries, we have to respect those boundaries. And the Quran talks about saying salam, entering with salam. And when you enter into a house, then say salam. This salam is actually a greeting that you are conveying on behalf of Allah. Tahiyyatan min indillahi mubarakatan tayyiba. This salam is a greeting you are conveying to your household from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It brings blessings and it is a very pure greeting. So that house that somebody enters with the dhikr of Allah, saying Bismillah and saying Assalamu alaikum, shaitan does not enter into that house. Every night shaitan takes, these groups of shayateen go from house to house looking for a place to stay and looking for food to eat. That house that has been entered with the dhikr of Allah, shaitan says, oh, there's no accommodations here and there's no food here. Let's try the next one. And that house that has been entered without the dhikr of Allah, shaitan says, let's go. We can hang out here tonight. So shaitan then stays in that house and he also partakes in the food. What does that mean? That the barakah of the food of that house is removed. And amongst the people, obviously there's shayateen there. What are they going to do? They're not going to create love and harmony. They're going to create fights. They're going to create difficulties amongst the people living there. And the solution, simple solution, say Bismillah when you enter your house and say Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, even if there's no one there. Simple way of safeguarding our homes. And there are many other things mentioned in this surah, but in the next surah there's a very powerful statement describing the relationships between all human beings. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَجَعَلْنَا بَعْضَكُمْ لِبَعْضٍ فِتْنَةً أَتَصْبِرُونَ. I have created some of you as a test for others. I have made some of you a test for others. What does that mean? That in everyone's life, there will be some people through which they are tested. So, parents are tested through their children. Children are tested through their parents. Husbands are tested through their wives, and wives are tested through their husbands. And friends are tested through their friends, and co-workers through co-workers, and bosses by their subordinates, and subordinates by their bosses. And this is the system of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we feel some kind of a stressful situation that's coming through a person, remember that the simple matter is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made, at this moment, Allah has made this person a test for me. And then Allah asks, Atasbirun, will you be patient? This is the whole thing. Will you maintain your composure? Will you stay within the boundaries of the deen of Allah? Will you stay within the limits set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Or will you lose it? Will you go out of limits? One person came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said that there's a person from my community who's always swearing at me and insulting me, even though socially he's of a lower stature than I am. So should I respond to him? Can I respond to him? Can I retaliate? Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, the example of two people swearing at each other is like two shaitans face to face. Two shaitans going at it. And because shaitan has manipulated both of them. So now these are, in the sight of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, these are like two shayateen going at it, swearing at each other, cursing at each other, calling each other liars. So, yes, we will be tested through each other. And of course, if we maintain the taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, nobody can truly harm us. وَإِن تَصْبِرُوا وَتَتَّقُوا لَا يَضُرُّكُمْ كَيْدُهُمْ شَيْئًا. Sometimes we feel people are planning against us. Someone is trying to take us down. Someone is trying to put us down. Someone is trying to make our life miserable, or someone is trying to deny us or deprive us of certain things in life. Allah says that if you maintain sabr and taqwa, nobody's plans can harm you in the least. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala enable us to take this guidance from His book. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not make us a sort of a form of testing for the zalimeen. This dua is in the Quran, لا تجعلنا فتنة للقوم الظالمين. O Allah, don't make us those people through which you are testing the zalims, that we become the target of their dhulm. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala save us, protect our children, our families, and the whole ummah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa baraka ala nabina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in.